quite well. I think both of these teams are absolutely just scratching to try and get some last little bits of points before the stage ends. But it doesn't really matter because for TrainHard, they're coming in with a really good opportunity here on a map that they just scored really, really rampant results on. For me, I don't think the bans will mean much, although we have seen VP put a strong reliance on shields sometimes. So I want to see if that's going to be the ban. But to begin, it will be Nomad off the board. And that is a lot of possibility for flanks if no gridlock's in play.
I remember speaking to, I forget who it was. There was someone on G2 I had a conversation with about them not banning away the Nomad on some maps, or banning it away and then on the attacking side still playing against it, knowing full well that they are a team that can employ it at the best of times. We've seen Citizen do that a few times. And they said, oftentimes the problem is when you ban away a Nomad is you almost invite attackers or defenders to come and aggress onto you. So you stick a player who's very capable with a gun on the flank and wait for someone to run at him, following the confidence that he, normally Citizen, and I think back to Cape when I think of this, would be able to win those gunfights as it came through. So either it will invite that playstyle or it won't. It really depends on the teams and their approach to seeing the Nomad ban come through. Do you know that there's going to be a gun pointing at you rather than an edge up? And is that enough disincentive? Heaven knows.
Interesting ban there for VP. They actually usually get rid of a Mai on this map, but maybe they're just getting rid of the intel that is going to be utilized. Maybe they even just look back at the previous game and go, I don't like the composition you were running last time, TrainHard. We think that the Valkyrie was a little bit of a crux, and as a result, we're just going to get it off the board. I like it. Not much of a change here from Chaoxis on the Lion, and I hope to see a bit of a 6-pick here. I mean, there's no real operators except for maybe the Echo that you would want to get off the board. And I say that VP really like to ban Wamai. They're actually going to bring it this time. So they've got the Jaeger Wamai combo, Echo to play with as well. You look towards TrainHard, not a single 6th pick in sight, and also not a random composition by any means. This looks to be a pretty solid composition for both teams.
I'm pretty sure I told you this before, Jess, but my oldest memory of you in Siege, a very fond one, is I tuned into your stream, not really knowing who you were, and the first words that came out of your mouth, in fact, no, there were 2 moments, so you were reviewing 2 games that day. One of them was screwing to a team for inting both of their drones on bank in through front door. Both of them got sprayed out, and you were like, 2 drones spawned there. Why are you just driving them in like that and letting them die? And the second one was you having a good old moan about what I was about to talk about then. There was a piece coming into this, I've already forgot. 6th pick, that's the one. And you were like, why wouldn't you 6th pick? You have the opportunity to use it. It's even a small seed of doubt in the opposition's mind. Why wouldn't you use it? And there was a very good amount of restraint, I think, in your words there a second ago. So I want to commend you for personal growth in the last 2 years.
Well, thank you very much. I probably couldn't care less about any of your compliments to me because they probably don't mean much to anyone, Des. But that's okay. You tried, and you know, I'll think about it one day when I'm down really, really bad. But speaking of the shield, something I'm hoping medics will align. Where that Banshee usually goes on maps, that's exactly where they've decided to put a shield. That is a very hard placement to achieve, and it takes practice after practice after practice. It's also going to have 1 magnet, 2 ADSs, and whatever line of sight that will give the defenders. I think that's going to be crucial.
You spoke a little bit around Chaoxis on the Lion as well. Back in the Tempera days, it was his absolute go-to. I always think back to maps like Coastline. They were a team that were well regarded for running the Lion pretty much, I wouldn't say much exclusively, but in the majority of rounds, you would see Chaoxis pulling across that operator. And maybe this is kind of a pullback to comfort for a team that's kind of, you know, rocking about on the laurels right now, not quite got the stability they're looking for. Just saying, we know what this can do for us. We know we're in a meta where defenders can play quite aggressively. So I want to bring along something that can help us on that front.
Speaking of helping you on that front, I couldn't believe that kind of line of sight that reverse shield gave Rask there. I mean, over towards landing, that is a brutal shield. With the new mirror windows in them, I say new, it's like you can tell I'm a boomer of the Siege world, but I mean, for the most part, that's an unreal bit of intel you can get, and they've got a shield over towards that classical hallway as well. They'll get rid of that one, but they have to realize that most of the denial there for that breach is over towards the aviator side because of that one shield. A lot of reliance, Des, but I mean, if it pays dividends, why not?
Absolutely. And I think back to APAC and the number of teams that were playing quite aggressively on the roam as well. We spoke about Guts Gaming. I remember us casting them last week and saying on Clubhouse how defensively they were playing. You're almost seeing a similar sort of vibe coming out here with these shields being used in those reverse positions like you saw. Blaz, a player that Ace highlighted as in to make a difference, is going to step up at least in round number 1 with a headshot onto Rask, one of our resident roamers who gave Na'Vi such a headache just a couple of weeks ago. Durza with a second from below onto Milan. That's 2 of the big fraggers of VP out of action. I say big fraggers, last game it was everyone but those 2 members that have been removed that were topping the charts for the team of Virtus.pro. Let's see what they can do in a 3v5.
Well, they've still got a lot of time to work with here. VP, especially those support players, look over to Karjeka and the smoke over towards A. They're trying to grenade them from below, and that's a good placement, but no one's behind Bar or in that particular position. For now, Blaz making his presence known, and all of these holes opened up. That's going to be the death of Karjeka, and yes, he's going to have to get into the corner of Bolt. There is not enough bullets to work with here, and as a result, he will finally get taken out of commission. But I tell you what, that super reliance on the shield on that maps table, that works well if you can keep study in your hands, which they didn't, and you don't let someone drop down hatch and get dispatched up before they can rotate back up to main stairs. TrainHard had every single bit they needed, as well as someone rotating below. That was really well played. I can see why they won this map the other day.
And I think this is almost telling us to why some teams have been playing this more aggressive defensive style, is that if you sit on site like this and give enough time for drones to get in, figure out what the hell's going on, it can be so easy to call a response. As you mentioned, taking over study, rendering that shield essentially useless. You had the grenades played below for free coming out from Durza. Unfortunately, didn't pick anyone off with it, but did at least do enough to make the defenders on site a little more unsettled and get them moving around so they could push into the lines of sight from players like Noera, pushing down 90, or Blaz, who moved on to find the second. Really good first round coming out of TrainHard. A little bit static from Virtus.pro. Keen to see what the change up here now that we go back to the same side again.
It's funny that they go back to this side, and the reason I say it's funny, it's actually the one that they've won the least, but they've played the most. So yeah, okay, there's a lot more sample size to look through and go, well, yeah, of course they might have lost it the least. They've played it the most, but not by far. I mean, they've most won one, as you would know, living in library. I mean, that's something that that teams just can't seem to dismantle their defensive setup on that side. But the other one that they do quite well on is the other top floor side. So the fact that they've decided, you know what, no, we know what mistake we made. We'll go back to this site. We'll do it better this time. Okay, but you also don't always do the best on it. And when I can say that, I mean, recently they have almost a flawless on this site. So I think historically, maybe not good to look at it, but recently, yeah, okay, this site does paint a prettier picture for them at least.
Just TrainHard sitting there saying, look, we dismantled BDS, who arguably are one of the greatest teams, if not the greatest, I guess some people would say, even though they're not in Larvae very closely. It's still a BDS league to be the one that you need to take over and beat. And a 7-2 victory on there, I did say, well, okay, look, maybe it wasn't BDS at full strength. It's not the most popular map. It's still 7-2 against the top European teams. So to come in today with the beans that they showed in round one, I'm really hoping that continues, because right now it's setting up exactly the same as before. 60 seconds to get control of the north side of the map and then look to push your way southwards. They even have the Lion here, which, although they suspect one or two people are downstairs, has pulled them back to sight. You do not want to get caught out on their own by a drone seeing you and then a Lion scan coming in straight after. It's one of those screwed if you stay, screwed if you go. Either way, just screwed, and you're going to find yourself dead on the ground very shortly after.
I'm really upset that they're doing a northern push, because at some point I'm going to have to give a call out that I supposedly can't pronounce. And if you know what I'm referencing there, then welcome to the club, because that's exactly where Durza is going now. And I cannot say the word woof, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds like a dog woof. Whatever. At the end of the day, it's a call out on this map.
Chat is definitely just like, but you just said woof, what are you on about? Connector also works well, yeah. So for the fun one, for those that may have missed it on the APAC broadcast, nice headshot by the way from Blaz. Second entry in a row now as well. So can you get a second onto the stairs? Maybe not peeking it just yet, but no, someone's there, takes the risky run across. Milan doesn't quite connect the shots. But for those that missed the APAC play day, I thought Jess was calling the call out woof the whole time. Turns out she's saying wolf, but can't say the word wolf, says woof instead because of the accent thing, or I can't hear it properly. Either way, hilarity ensues. If you see woof in the chat, you know exactly what it's referencing.
EE1D wasn't perfectly timed. Absolutely not. You could have pinched out Milan here, and I actually thought that was the point of it, but Blaz didn't move upstairs. The rappel into the study balcony wasn't done in tandem, and as a result now they're just stalling out like a deer in headlights. What do we do here? They're just letting them run into their gun sights, and this should be the kill. Good pinch finally. And now that you put Blaz on the Ash, he does work, but this is what VP wanted to do last time, Des. They wanted to be able to hold it out and force them into sight and use their utility, which is why you bring the smoke. It's why you bring the echo. That's what VP want.
Look at Durza snaking in here as well, like lying under all that smoke, and manages to get in and finish off one, bringing it into the 1 versus 2 rather than that temporary 1 versus 3. I guess a 3 versus 2, but there were 2 members down, one's been finished off, and in fact even manages to recover Chaos. He's got no more EE1Ds left, but does have 3 flashes to play with here in the late round. The problem is you're playing against an Echo, I believe should still have 2 cameras alive. Swings out for Chaos as he pushes in, and Durza probably asking, bro, you swung a bit too soon there, you might want to wait a couple more seconds, because now I've got 5 seconds left in a 1 versus 2. Virtus.pro will thrive off the chaos in the mid round and close out round number 2, bringing us to 1 apiece.
I'm impressed. VP said, yeah, we know what mistakes we made last round. We won't make them this round. It did get down to a 2v2 in the end there. And I guess, until Durza was able to pick up his teammate, it really was a 1v2. I think overall, their strategy, and it's very clear from their composition, the operators that they're bringing, is that they want to play for the late game. They won't train hard to do all of their business on the other side of the map, start opening things up that aren't open, and then they'll use the Yokais, they'll use the smokes, they'll use C4s if they can below. That's why we saw the mute roam below before. They wanted to have a C4 below when they ran into 90. The strategy is there. I just think TrainHard, when they see a problem, like someone roaming below or whatever, they try and deal with it head on, and that's a problem for VP. That's why they're losing members early on. So I like that now we're bringing the Go-Yo back in. Shields have been really good for VP. This is historically and recent, and this is where they used to run the shields a lot. You got to think about the Shockwave days as well. So these are the types of things that have not changed here for VP, and I'm glad that they're bringing it back in because it often does work.
Like the old school sort of VP when I think of it. I always think back to Cafe and just think about the bans they used to draw there. Always a Ying ban, always a Goyo ban, because every team knew that that's what they would do. They'd just stack them up in the utility meta and teams would struggle to get through it sometimes. And I think with the adaptations to things like the Wamai bans that used to come out, the target Goyo bans against them sometimes did start doing work. It stopped them being able to play those kind of strats, but sometimes you've got to go back to your roots to start playing what really worked well for you once upon a time. So not all surprised to see such heavy denial coming out. The Kai, the Mute, the Malusi, the Goyo, the Jaeger. This is just screaming again. How can we keep them off-site or waste as much as their utility as possible for the longest of times? The one thing I will give a nod to in the last round, by the way, I forget who it was. If it was playing on the smoke, when they came like crouch walking out onto Blaz as he pushed to the bottom side of 90, I was like, man, like, that's the aggression you want to see at kind of the right timing. Don't go super aggressive early round, but when it's required later round, that's when you shut down the key fragger for the other side.
No! Oh my goodness, that is revenge onto the tippy toes of Milon after that attempted spawn peek, and it did a lot of damage. In fact, Dirtza ended last round on this HP. He is now starting this round on this HP. Now he'll slap it back to Milon. Pasha will go down to 25 HP as well. This is a fast and furious round, and it comes down from the fact that they're doing a bottom floor hold for the C4s. I spoke about it before. They wanted C4s below, and as Dirtza swings, well, that HP will be his absolute kryptonite as he falls early on. He's the opening death. And I mean, we got 1 minute into this game, and I'm already off the edge of my seat here, Des.
I love how it's getting into the aggression a little bit earlier on, playing that disruption game we keep on speaking about and knowing what Durza's been like with his grenades, both this week and previous. We saw it in the replay clips earlier on. I'm glad to see that he's been removed off a little bit earlier on. Stop those frag grenades singing in from below, especially with the amount of soft flooring that, of course, you have on this trophy and statuary site. Let's see, though, how TrainHard pushed through what has now proven to be a slightly disadvantageous round for them in the 4 versus 5. They've got 90 seconds still to play, and their attacking pace is good in round 1. Here, they're going to walk around a corner straight into Karjeka, and the question has to be asked, where are the drones on that front? Why jumping in through bathroom window with no assistance coming into Astro? Because that's the freest kill of his life.
I think that's the trouble with teams or players, rather, that can't take their foot off the gas and they just leave that pedal full throttle at all times, is that they will put themselves in conspicuous positions. Speaking of, thread the needle, why don't you there, WTG, with the Vector all the way over into bathroom. It'll leave half or 3/4 now of TrainHard out of commission, and that is a hard position to be in. Round number 1 looks really good for TrainHard, but things have been going downhill ever since VP caught their stride. And with a 5v2 here, 45 seconds left, they are going to have to hit some nasty shots here, Des. Otherwise, it's looking not very good.
I mean, look at this. VP just lining up and saying, oh, everyone gets a crack of the whip here as well, because there's 3 of them waiting around Astro stairs, just daring them to come for a peek. And Chaoxis try as he might. I think he's in a spot where, although he sees the head, sadly they see his first. He's put down on the deck. Spark going to be the 4th challenger to push through bathroom in this round. No one has come out alive. I don't know about you, buddy, but I don't quite fancy your odds, considering there are 5 members left alive for Virtus.pro and only 15 seconds in the round. Last couple of rounds have looked clinical, as you said, Jess, and I don't think there's much else to say than that. It's a flawless round for VP, and now we can consider them well and truly warmed into Villa.
Well, how ironic that half of those TrainHard players, or rather 2 of them, fell in bathroom, cleaned them right up. That's what you want for VP. I think we did say to begin with, they're 2 top floor sides, especially recently. I'm going to take away half of those historical results. I'm going to go in recent times, how they've performed on Villa. They've done really well on the Aviator site. They've done really well on the Statue site. But how do they fare downstairs? Surprisingly, they will go to dining. The reason I say this is surprising for us, because VP during the major, they revolutionized the way that you can play living room. Maybe they feel now that people have worked it out, they know the counters for it, there's no point in them repeating it because people will expect them to do it. But they have a really good win rate on Statue Trophy, or rather not Statue Trophy, Living Library. And the fact that they're going Dining Kitchen, which, I mean, they really haven't played a lot of. In fact, they've only got 2 statistical pieces to go off of it all. I really don't have anything to sort of forebode here for the viewers.
Well, Mute Mozzie coming along just screens Intel denial to the extremes. The top floor likely going to be a good part of the focus here. You've got the Oryx on side as well. The Malusi and the Legion for the trap denial. Kind of rings to me the sort of thing we saw out of Rogue last week, actually. They were playing quite a lot of this Legion in their games as well. Just again for the info game as well as the denial, the slowing down those attackers as they come running through. Getting a similar sort of vibe here. Both 2 operators targeted towards the Intel, 2 towards actual operators themselves. TrainHard going to have to adapt. And you were referencing that revolutionary strat they came up with. It was VP versus BDS. Well, we saw it a couple of times, didn't we? And it was day 2 that we saw BDS revolutionize the attack by coming from the basement with an Amaru to go for a plant. That was unbelievable.
Well, we can reminisce as much as we want, but we need both of these teams to be thinking on the ground, what are they going to do against these 2, or rather their opponents? These 2 teams are nearing the bottom of the standings. They are very lucky that Team Empire is having a worse season than them. Otherwise, one of them would be on the bottom of the leaderboard without a doubt. There are some really big gunners on the side of TrainHard, Blaz being one of them. I think Fabian himself spoke about how important he would be as an EU gunner. And I think putting him on the Ash here today has been a really good decision. Oh, God, wow. Jesus, Lord, I just spoke him into his death. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's a cast of curses if you wanted to see one, ladies and gents. Caught in 8K. Never going to be able to avoid that one ever again, Jess. But I like the adaptation there. They know the line's coming along, and rather than being off on the roam somewhere and not holding an angle, just kind of getting ready to move and instead freezing in place, what do? You sit and hold bullet holes and wait for them to get confident off the back of the lion scan. Then you make your move and catch them as they try and push forward quite aggressively. That is their entry fragger down. He had a good first couple of rounds, but the last 2 non-existent, unfortunately.
I like the way that TrainHard used those vertical grenades as well. Dirtz has been showing that he has a lot of prowess with his gadgetry, and that's what you want to see from a player who mains Sledge. You don't want them to be just throwing them willy-nilly around the map, hoping that they have impact. You either use them for kills below, or you use them to get rid of gadgets. I don't care what you use them for, as long as it seemingly has a strategy behind it, that there is a point to you taking Sledge with those grenades, and it's not just a soft breach that you're seeing him, do some damage around the map with. This is a lot of lines of sight opened up here for VP. We saw this on the first round when they were playing Aviator. This time they're going to bring it all the way onto the bottom floor, and they'll have a top floor hold as well. So all of these lines of sight, now that are being opened up by VP, and WTG, double kill for him. He started off with those bullet holes, and now he makes it just a run-up red.
Man, I bet it must feel weird for TrainHard to see another team that opens everything up, because if you recall, TrainHard or Tempera formerly would be the team that on Coastline, for example, would play Penthouse and Theatre and open up seemingly every wall on the map to open up these incredibly long sight lines. Here, TrainHard is staring down the barrel of a team that are undoing exactly the same approach onto them, and they can't seem to deal. 3 kills have come flying through, and we spoke about maybe TrainHard have something coming into today outside of one little consolation kill for Chaoxis. That was almost a second flawless round for Virtus.pro in a row.
A double kill to start things off for WTG. A double kill for, which play was it in the back of sight there as they peeked around? Was it Milon? I'm not sure it was.
Yeah.
And then Rask finished it off. I like teams that don't rely on one player to do everything. We had a bit of pre-broadcast discussion about this, actually, and you and I disagree. We can talk about this on the desk later, but I think teams that can have an entire team step up in one round rather than, WTG steps up in this round, and then Milon steps up in the next round, and then I want to see a group effort, and I think for VP, that's what we're seeing now. I don't know what the communication's like. I don't know what intel they're working off of here, because they don't particularly have a lot of intel ops. I mean, yes, they've got the yokais, but they're not using it how G2 uses Echo, for example, and they use one of them as a sort of roaming key. I think VP, they're staying close to home. Staying next to site, at least for half of their plays, and then letting 1 or 2 players sort of roam off, have damage if they can. But there's a purpose behind it. They're not just running around because they want to see what's going on over there. They have a purpose to being in that position, and it's oftentimes holding power positions.
That last round was definitely the loosest we've seen them play with. You saw the long angle being held all the way down red, and it was quite sneaky that we even saw Durza manage to get himself inside a library in the first place by opening up the wall to his left. I think at the exact moment in which they backed away to go for the reload on that longer angle, and this is that lion scan that we were on about, you just see him walk straight into it, and WTG doesn't even move like a predator in the wild, lets his prey make the first move, and then he pounces at the right time. And from there, it was just a downhill round for TrainHard. At this point, it almost feels like, dare I say, that in free fall, Virtus.pro have warmed into it. That one first round was really good from TrainHard, but since Virtus.pro have kind of woken up, it's 2 rounds in a row now in which they found a single kill and not even got close to winning the round.
Well, what a shame, because for TrainHard now, they desperately need these points. I know we've criticized them a lot coming into this, and Ace even had the audacity to call them a tier 1.5 team. So they have a lot to prove here today, ladies and gentlemen, not just for the viewers, not just for the fans, but also to Ace, who, well, he's got some choice words for the team of TrainHard. This is something they've done multiple times, though. They've gone below. They're trying to grenade underneath. They're trying to ash charge underneath. They'd like to take the main stairs rather than red and fair on them. If this is the kind of push over towards study they want to do, it can work. My problem is sometimes I feel like they're missing some drones, at least pre-placed drones in the prep phase, that could speed up this ingress and not make it just a wild Hail Mary into main stairs.
EP with everything being considered here as well, not just the stairs itself, but also the great grenade from Durza. We called them out in the replay. We called them out earlier that they didn't connect to kill. This time around does find Karjek. The mute's been removed, no doubt. A C4 off the board at the same time. I was going to speak about BP and say, yes, okay, TrainHard are attacking main stairs. What can we do to upset that? Let's really make it hard for the Zofia to play in the spot where she normally would, and they had those vertical angles opened up. Was a nice start, but unfortunately the grenade kill comes through and is going to put VP on the edge a little bit, knowing they're now in a 4 versus 5, 90 seconds still to play.
Well, for VP, they've been trying to dance around a lot of those vertical holes they've made over to main stairs. And the reason they're opened up is they're trying to help the person playing on main stairs. That person's backed all the way on up. And, well, Karjek fell earlier, so that's going to be a player that you could have had a crossfire with gone. And now that they have that main stairs control and 60 seconds to work with, what they've lost is, unfortunately, the wall's being reinforced and Milon steps out as well. But Blaz will trade onto WTG, so this numbers advantage has worked well. And was he flashed out? I would have to say, surely.
He was. He absolutely was. He got himself swung in by a Kelx. It's a very aggressive play for Pasha to turn around and collect things back, but he runs straight into Spark, waiting for him to come pushing through the aviator door. That's the second round I think they'll have been looking for on their attacking half, to be fair. Much better there, much more structured, more aggressive as well. I think WTG came out into 90 for the swing as this fight was going on at the top side, lost the swing. It's almost like as soon as they backed away from main stairs, that's when we saw TrainHard really come into some form of control and composure. And again, it's the second round they were looking for.
I think teams misunderstand that when you lose a position that you're holding as what you would consider to be a power position, main stairs being one of it, in the ingress of the attackers there, once you lose it or you relinquish it and you give up and you reinforce by a wall, that's when you give it up. Don't go, hang on, wait, maybe I want it back now, because guess what? The power position is now the attackers. You don't just run back into it and say, oh, give it back now. This is not a position for you to be able to take back for free. And I think for a lot of players, they think they can try and use that against them, maybe use a false sense of security. We're in tier 1. It doesn't work that way.
You spoke about points earlier on, by the way. I did kind of want to highlight how things currently look and how grave the situation could be for either team. The largest gap that currently exists between two teams in the points table is Vitality and Virtus.pro. Vitality is sat in 6th place, Virtus.pro in 7th. Vitality have 8 points, Virtus.pro have 4 and below them, if you're really caring that much. TrainHard have 3, Secret have 3, Empire have 1. I almost fear here that if there is a draw today, or well, not a draw, but overtime victory for either side, that's only really going to exacerbate the strength of that gap, and you're just going to see it grow wider and wider as the next couple of games go by. Because think about it, Vitality and Cabana, who sit in 5th and 6th, they're on a really good streak at the minute of playing incredibly well. They win today, you might start seeing like a 6-point gap between Virtus.pro and the next closest team to them. You kind of have these bottom 4 teams that are going to be scrapping, and that's as far as it's going to go.
No, he just changed the window that he decided to spawn peek out of. He just moved it to the right rather than the left. And I don't want to say that TrainHard should have known that that's what Milan was going to do. But in the second round where he lit Dirtsa down to like 15 HP, you could be pretty sure that Milan might try it again. I mean, it's in his entire, thought process to do as the roamer. So really good pick, and even better, it's Chaoxus. E1Ds won't be a problem.
I mean, almost arguable after the last round that those EE1Ds became more of an ally to VP. The confidence that it still train hard with led to them walking into kills. But no, I agree with you. Having that off the board, never going to be a bad one. And we saw what the flashes, even something as simple as some flash grenades normally used to burn through ADSs and such, the impact they can have was pretty profound in that instance. Let's see. I think there's a massive helicopter go over my house, by the way. I don't know if you can hear it. It sounds pretty noisy.
I can absolutely hear it. Sure, why not? Maybe if you mute your microphone, that would also assist. Thank you very much, Des, because I can barely hear anything. But TrainHard, they're making this a swift round, and as that train goes by at 100 or more kilometers per hour, that's what TrainHard are trying to replicate here. They want in, and they want in fast, because once you have that vertical hold, you are able to do serious damage. Bait out the first C4 in the car, Zeka, and then guess what? Get the kill as well. Dirts is having a wild game here, and whether or not it's grenades from below or kills from above, he knows that he can do what is needed for his team. And now they're going to be able to surely get rid of some of these shields, because there's multiple...
Too easy.
Is it?
I mean, there's an easy joke here around that was actually a helicopter going over my house, and it was here to evac TrainHard for this car crash of a round that started to set up. Things not looking so good. That grenade coming into an ADS and then getting swung by WTG, and you're still stood there at the angle where you threw the grenade is questionable at best. It does shut down the aggression from that angle. 4 versus 3 Virtus.pro, 45 seconds still to play. And you can feel how the wind have kind of been taken out of their sails once again here. If you catch out a member or two early on TrainHard, that's when they really kind of seem to falter. And maybe that's down to adaptability not being at its best once the strat starts falling apart. I'm not sure. But now Sparks hit the deck as well. A 4 versus 2, a 4 versus 1, sorry, is no error. Also got picked off. Also really struggled to warm into this game at a 1 and 5 KD as it stands so far. Blaz, arguably alongside Durs, are the only ones really having a big impact. He steps in and gets put in the dirt. Virtus.pro with a very convincing first half. Again, some glimmers of hope for TrainHard. But that's all they've been for the last 2 weeks, Jess. Glimmers.
Something that you'll hear me say round after round, game after game, doesn't matter the team or the tier level, a team that will sit there in a 1v4 situation and not swing is a team that takes the game very seriously. Now, you could have come into this matchup with TrainHard being one of the easier opponents in the next coming weeks. And VP could have gone, this should be easy points for us. But you can see that they're respecting their opponents. They're not trying to swing out, just go for kills when it's in a 1vx situation for TrainHard. They are waiting. And they're not giving them a single extra hit unless they have to. So for me, I like that VP are playing this way. They're playing conserve, they're playing passive, they're playing what they need to in order to draw TrainHard to side. I'm a little worried that half of the team is playing one way. And when I say half of the team's playing one way, you got those people downstairs trying to be really aggressive, and the other half's trying to play a completely different strategy. It's worked. They're walking away that half 4 and 2, but now that they're on their attack, statistically, how does it look for them on their attack?
Numbers, what do they mean?
Well, 42% win. I mean, you're a 2-round buffer. That makes up for it if you were to push it a half. I mean, not so good for TrainHard, though. You look at their attacking win rounds. Actually, no, even better. I take that back. I have this back the wrong way. 55% attacking round wins. Sheesh.
Can I propose one thing?
That's pretty good.
In fact, I can look at it, I imagine, quite soon, because I want to know how many of those rounds were as a result of the game yesterday against BDS that was a 7-2.
Good question.
I'm going to have a dig and see what I can find, because I think if that was like a, they just stomped over them when it came to attacking. Okay, they won only one attacking round. No, they won 4 attacking rounds and only lost no attacking. Oh, wow, they won all the defensive rounds as well. Yeah, that's going to be a pretty big stat padding map. I'm not going to lie. 4 and 2 at the half on the attack on Villa. It feels good, man. And not dropping a single defensive round either. Fair play. That's wild to start an attack and still go 7 and 2, by the way.
Yeah, they'll need to do that here against VP because they got 2 rounds to make up. Then they need to propel themselves on a match point. Then you need to even that one out and not push it to overtime. There's a lot of what ifs, but I'd rather them show me here right now that they have the confidence not to be too dissuaded by how that first half went. Reset themselves and do well here on their defense. That's a nice little drone upon that telescope at the top of astronomy there. That's going to spot out the Aruni player. And, well, that's an easy dispatch of Noera, who, as you rightfully pointed out, hasn't had the best of games, and that will continue.
Had a really poor game, I think, against BDS yesterday as well, going 7 and 25 in the whole series. Pretty painful for a player, again, that a few had coined to be Baby Shaco in the making of kind of always. I think he called him his apprentice in a way, that Shaco's kind of taken him under his wing and been working with him a little bit as well, where he can to always guide him the right way. So far, it hasn't really yet, I suppose, given any real form to it, hasn't formulated or what's the word I'm looking for here? It's definitely materialized is what I'm after. It hasn't materialized in an E-World game so far. That's what we're still yet to see out and aware of. That I'm, worried that he's almost getting himself into a sort of hole that we saw out of Crime when he was on G2, for example. You just kind of see yourself doing not so well. That kind of gets into your mindset. You play even worse. That again gets back into your mindset. It's a horrible cyclical loop that you get stuck into that never works out well for you. But WTG, after a screamer of a last game, is also putting up numbers in this game as it stands. 10 kills he's got himself across 7 rounds.
And that's really impressive as well, because he's playing flex frag, and then a couple of flex supports here and there in the first half. He's going on to the buck this half, and that's given him a little bit of freedom to use the soft breach. He's got the flashes as well, and he'll have that C8 to work with. I think he's doing really well. My problem is that if you're TrainHard right now and you really needed to get this next round or even the round after that, this doesn't, sort of paint a pretty picture of your confidence whatsoever. Oh no, why? Why did you run in the middle of study? What were you doing?
Did they expect they'd rotated off to go and push main stairs, or were attacking from the north entirely?
Surely not.
Like, you always have a study player to threaten him from that angle. We know this. But Pasha is getting away with the plant. They know that study player's gone. The C4 comes out, it downs him, doesn't quite kill him. And can they recover in time here? Another one comes out, but it hits the sofa. Milan to collect another couple of kills, make it a 3K in the round. And despite a momentary lapse, I guess, the momentary moment in which you might have seen TrainHard pull something back with the C4 down, absolutely not. Milan goes, don't worry, guys. We've still got this under control, and closes things out.
Surely they call a timeout at this point, because honestly, you're 3 rounds behind. You need to make sure that you're back to our faces. We have a timeout. This is when is probably a really important opportunity for TrainHard here to speak to their coaches, who you saw standing behind them on the player cams, who are probably looking a little bit stressed out, because after being able to do so much damage on Villa against one of the best teams in all of Europe and maybe the world, hopefully we find out in the coming months, you come up against VP, who is currently very low down on the standings, hasn't been accruing lots of points at all, is in a weakened form, and you can't do that. I mean, that's wishy-washy at best.
Dare I say, it's just the same issues kind of proliferating themselves again and again and again for TrainHard here, where yes, there are a good couple of, individual rounds, and we've seen the odd player step up and have a good round, like Blaz. A good couple of rounds in the first half where he steps up and gets the opening 2 kills, his team take control of the advantage and go on to win. Great. But like you also pointed out earlier on, when we see a team that relies on one player to do all the heavy lifting for them, or even one or 2 players, the question I remember asking, like way back when Na'Vi were known as Eminem playing in the UK League, I was saying, what happens on a day when Doki doesn't show up or Citizen doesn't show up? Because way back then, of course, they did play together. And that was a question that was as real back then as it is now for so many teams that aren't quite performing to the level that you want. What happens when one of those 2 key players doesn't show up? Who else can step up? Can they revolve back on team play and strats, for example? The answer, as it often comes out to be, is no. If those things don't exist, you're going to find yourself headed straight to the bottom of the table, which, as it feels like, that is slowly where TrainHard are heading. I love, by the way, just to point it out, look at the top right corner of your screen for the live ranking. If Virtus.pro win this game, there is no change in the standings. Because of that 4-point gap, they don't move up, and because TrainHard are just below Virtus.pro, they don't move down.
Yeah, there really is a little bit of a gap there between 6th and 7th and everyone else below that. So realistically,
unlucky tweet, by the way.
TrainHard may be new to EUL, but I have confidence they're going to pop off against VP. Let's go. I missed whoever his name that was, but I was going to call them out and laugh at him.
Royal Xenon that was. So I was like, oh, man.
Ooh, that's all right. Next time, buddy. I mean, you know what? If you tweet that every week, then one time you'll be right.
There becomes a point in the boy who cried wolf there, right? It does kind of stop at some point.
I hate to, I love these new live tweets, but I hate to be the one that has to read them out when they are seriously, possibly wrong. Who knows? I mean, they've still got a few rounds to work with.
Yes, Jess, you literally cursed a man a couple of rounds ago. We've had so many instances of putting our feet in it before. Like, it's okay if occasionally the Twitter crowd gets involved and puts their foot in it as well. That's what it's all about. We're all in this together, including when we're completely wrong. Don't worry, guys.
Well, we might not be completely wrong. And in fact, I'd like to be proven wrong here. I would like for TrainHard to have an awesome reverse sweep should the round start collecting up against them, propel it even into overtime, whatever they need to do, I would be happy to see it. But WTG, he is on an absolute tear here today. And it's been really nice to see him popping off, because if you look at the whole rankings for the entirety of VP and you want to go, well, who's the most impactful? It's always Milan and Pasha. WTG actually sits at the bottom 2 rated of his team. So it's nice that he's having a good day today.
He went 13-9 in the last play day as well when they faced off against Vitality. And that was I suppose although you looked at the game and said, well, they did lose 8-7. Yeah, sure. But I commented on it before. It's nice to see a more supportive player because normally you see him on things like the smoke, being able to kind of get involved, pick up some kills, for example. And I think part of that maybe comes down to Karjeka being on side now as well. He obviously played that more supportive role coming out for Rogue. And here it seems to be taking on some of those duties too, unlocking WTG to make things happen. Not that really you need a fourth threat because you look at like Rask and the game that he had against Na'Vi on Consulate, he's also a monster. So now you're looking at Milan, Pasha, Rask and WTG. It still begs that question, just what the hell is going wrong for Virtus.pro to be sat second or third from bottom in the table?
Oh no, how on earth, Spark? Yeah, how on earth he was able to rotate that without WTG swinging upon the hearing of the deployment is beyond me. Last time we had a player run through study and get collected in that exact window where Milan is poising himself now. He got a kill below before and now he's already on study window. That is an amazing rotate and it's clear to me that VP know exactly what they want to do. No, they've spotted Blaz below. That's a drone and this is an easy one for Ras, but he can't go and stand in the Banshee and he needs to confirm where he's gone. That's an easy pre-fire. The pigs will come out and surely a teammate will get on and Piggy's exact location. Pigs on out and there's your freebie and that's what drones can do, baby.
They got no error in Astro with exactly the same sort of drone coming out here now. There is the Echo hanging above with 15 seconds on the clock, but I'm concerned that is not going to be enough for them. He sees the drone, sprays it out, and that should be the end of it. There's a second one to come in, but it's got to run under the feet of Rask, and he sees it and manages to stop it in time. That's going to mean that this diffuser gets committed to the ground. 5-2 for Virtus.pro is looking an awful lot like 6-2 as Noera yet to make an impact in this game. Won't start now. Rask puts him in the dirt. Virtus.pro 6-2 are staring down the barrel of their first victory of the EUL 2021 season.
Well, it's better late than never. And I know there's a few people that looked at the TrainHard and BDS game and went, wow, TrainHard absolutely slapped BDS and Villa. I mean, yeah, okay, BDS is not historically a good Villa team. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here and I hate to call you wrong, but you're wrong. Anyone who thinks that that was based off the fact that BDS doesn't do well on Villa is absolutely wrong. There is no way under the sun in anyone who has more than 3 brain cells that you run into 6 open and run full strats when you have 6 Invitational to think about, when you have finals of EUL to think about, when you have trying to gain the top 3 spots to think about now that Rogue and Na'Vi are kicking off. No. Anyone who says it's just because they had a bad map, they don't know anything about how the realism of behind the scenes work when it comes to teams setting up. Open, okay, was that indicative that BDS might have weaknesses? Sure. But if they're playing randomized strats, that's the problem, not the map.
Let me just go find my predictions tweet and delete that real quick, because apparently I fall under that banner of having 3 brain cells, Jess. It's gone. There we go. Good times. No. I didn't quite say about the map piece. Early on, we did say something similar. I thought that maybe we'd see TrainHard motivated was the words that I used by the result yesterday. Again, I mentioned about players like Noera, about Blaz. You know, I think, in fact, all players in this game at some point, not every single one, but a good few from both sides have tweeted something like, the stress gets in our heads, sort of feeling really overwhelmed by how things are going so far. It's just not a good mental state that I'm in. I really need to slap out of it. Blaz said it, and I believe it was Pasha that said the same thing on Milan on the other side. So I think for TrainHard, I was hopeful. It's probably the best way to describe it. I was hopeful that they would come in motivated today and say, look, we beat BDS yesterday. We can beat Virtus.pro today.
Sure.
Sadly, Virtus.pro have just come out hitting far too hard today, I think is the problem.
I absolutely agree. You could take the momentum of beating a really, really good team. But if you think that you beat a really, really good team at full power, then you're lying to yourself. And that's BDS was playing randomized strats. Anyone who's done even 1 month of analysis could have seen that. So for me, I think here for VP, it's not a surprise that they're dominating TrainHard on a map that they recently did well on. I just think for VP, they don't need to get ahead of themselves. It looks to me like they're clearing with a hot drone consistently, and I like that. I hope they don't just start switching it to face checking things because they get that confidence behind them. But it doesn't seem to be the way. They're slowly and meticulously going through everything, cutting off those flanks below so no one can see 4. Claymores in place, and that's why you need to drone. That's why you drone, ladies and gentlemen, because that can happen.
Ace's ears are burning. Blaz is burning, his way through the lineup of Virtus.pro with 2K inside a master bedroom as well. I mean, this is what I like about some teams, is you don't sit back, you don't play on site all the time, you want to get out of the map and cause disruption. Is it risky? Yes, but when it works, my God, can it work? Because there's 3 members dead on Virtus.pro, only about 90 seconds into the round, and there's kind of a consolation prize back for Milan as he picks up Noera, but surely there isn't a way that they can bring this back from a 2 versus 4. Rask, not yet really sure shining in this game. Milan has had a good start, but must know there's a crossfire waiting for him here as soon as he looks to walk inside of this room. So much so that he's not even thinking about it just yet. Going to hold fire temporarily, and now you see the challenge coming in. If he peeks again, please peek on it. Sees the head, picks down Chaoxis as well, who's had a good couple of weeks for the side of TrainHard, but not going to have a massive impact here just yet. Rask looking through the window. If they pull off this 2 versus 4, it would be mega to close the game out at a 7-2. But that actually means being able to get inside in the next 60 seconds and make something happen, Jess.
Well, one of the biggest gunners of WTG has died down in the past few rounds, and now it's the Milan show. And unfortunately for him, he is down to 5 HP, but that does not stop him, Des. This is the kind of clutch that you expect. It is now a 1v1. Dirts is on full HP. Milan on a mere 5 to 8. He would have to hit a perfect headshot here to win this.
He can't just walk through the gate either as well. Going to have to drop it down, which he has done with the utility, but it'll be a 4K clutch back from the grave for Milan if he pulls this off to give Virtus.pro 7-2. And round for us might not be the whole sort of thing that we look at here in the league, but no doubt it's going to be important. No! No! He walked into a second! We don't even get to see on the replay!
They don't want it replayed, mate. They said if you replay that, I swear to God.
Milan's down bad. The whole team's down bad. 2 frost mats in 1 round, yes!
That's horrible. For a team that I praised for the first couple of attacking rounds for having a really good live drone, hot droning in a couple of those entry players, things were looking hot. You saw that drone when they spotted the player down in piano. Things were on fire there for VP. They had every bit of intel they needed. So much intel that the most basic of droning was just too hard for them. They need complex droning to work.
Pain. I remember talking about this last week and saying in Nordic Championship last year, the whole scene at the time, about 12 months ago, if you walked into a frost map, you were clipped, you were shared on Reddit, you were all across Twitter, you were memed for it at the top tier. And I think Vito did it once in a Nordic Championship game. Everyone was like, "Way, Frostmat, he's did it." And last week I commented that I think in every game we see a Frost now, there are 1, if not 2, jump-ins to a Frost mat that we just continuously keep on seeing. How on earth Blaz hasn't died here is unbelievable. Oh, Xhaka, you should feel bad. That is very unfortunate that he walks away there with the 3 kills for his team. Still, fair play to Milan, almost bringing back 4 kills to the team to close things out. But TrainHard are throwing a lifeline. They get a 3rd round. Virtus.pro now going to look to go for the jugular and close it out here and now. This time round, at least, probably slightly more aware of those frost mats.
Well, if they don't drone out the bottom of the windows this time, then they deserve to lose this round, unfortunately, because, I mean, those frost mats, they're an area denial, they're a problem to deal with. You can shoot them when you're jumping on in, but you need to have everywhere else cleared, the crossfires, etc., when you do jump in. So for me, those placements upstairs scream to me that they really want this top floor hold to work. That's why you see multiple players have even opened up the hatch. So if the attackers can take this top floor, most of it will be really workable for VP. You can see how well they've been working those verticals so far. I think you just need WTG in. Rask has the breaching charges. Milan, he'll have the explosive should he need to, and the rest will be history.
Oof, well, I'm glad to report the drones are working out pretty well for them as they found their way again. 2 and 9 on the map. Just go from bad to worse for some players, unfortunately. I'm really hoping he can find some composure by the end of the season because it has not been a pretty one so far, that is for sure. But the opening kill is there for Virtus.pro. No frost mats have been jumped into early on. Everyone will be very, very pleased to hear, as they are indeed being a little more cautious about this one. Starting out from the south side and moving their way north, completely what we come to expect when defending onto this site up towards the top. Well, normally if it was trophy and statuary, yes. Maybe a full clear here if you're also attacking downstairs. Not always going to be the way, but that's exactly what Virtus.pro have gone for.
Well, VP are using this in their stride, getting out those flank drones in really good positions, and that saved them multiple rounds in a row. So if that keeps working for them, then why not? Things they'll have to be focused on here is that they're doing a study over push, and when you do that over towards Astro, you do that over towards Statue and Trophy, the biggest thing is that you need to get those pinch. I think most of the TrainHard players have actually given up because they've wasted more than half the round. Yes, they have. And now they'll use C4s as part of their arsenal to be able to stop this top floor attack. Biggest thing for me is that, unfortunately, when you're challenging these verticals, there's going to be so much opened up above you. You're better off playing outside in.
I just worry as well. They've only still got the 1C4 to play behind here. It's in hand, it's thrown out, but where's it going to connect onto? Okay, no, changed his mind. Spark was wielding it for a brief second as the indicator underneath his operator icon did give to us. The white line indicates what they've got in hand. C4 back out again here as well. Not sure where anybody's thinking about throwing it, to be fair, because no one right now is looking to go for anything as a push by the sounds of it. It's more about gearing up. So it's going to be one of those 30-second, 20-second pushes that we speak about for a few teams just when they leave it until the last second. You can't really afford to get it wrong when it comes to putting the plant down, but otherwise you can afford to take a bit of time, and that's exactly what they'll do. Selma's starting to connect onto the wall.
They haven't opened up this critical part here, right next to Statue. That's where they're going to have a big fault to work with here. Grenade will rain out. That should get rid of the Banshee, and Spark still in a really good position with his shotgun.
Oh,
you see the body take him out. There we go. Milan finally dispatches of the key power position, and surely this player could go down. They have the verticals they need, and it is a VP showing. This is surely match point here, and yes, it is. WGG from behind. He'll drop down into Astro, and you can see Pasha doing big cheers. Let your team and all your fans know, because that is the first full win on the board here for VP, something they haven't been able to do this stage thus far.
I know the boys are going to be absolutely ecstatic later on social media. They're going to be shouting out about how much better they feel now they've got that win on the board.
Yeah.
The best way I can describe this in one word to me is comfortable. That just looked comfortable for Virtus.pro, I think.
I'm really happy to finally see smiles on their faces because, I mean, with those overtime win and losses, they haven't been able to accrue the points that they